Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be taking a look at another controller for the Nintendo Switch, that being the enhanced wired connected Metroid Dread wired, what is it, PowerA. I couldn't think what it is. You can also see how much I paid for it right there. Wrong side. Was $24.99, now $19.99. So for £20, I got myself a wired Metroid Dread PowerA controller. Now, to be clear right at the beginning, I had bought a PowerA controller way back when. And it was actually broken when I first got it, so I probably never show it off in this. I think, in fact, I might have thrown it away. So I didn't have much confidence buying it, but because of the design of this controller, like this design is super cool, I was like, okay, it's only £20, I will give it a whirl. So in this country we have Game, I think it's like the equivalent to GameStop in America. But you can also see on the front there, right at the bottom, it says wired. It also says mappable buttons, headset input, and yeah, wired. So, and the back of the box shows off sort of what it looks like, where those mappable buttons are, and so on and so forth. And also usable with the Switch OLED and normal one. There's a stereo audio jack for game and chat via headsets, because a lot of companies now are doing this thing where you can get around using the phone app for Nintendo. But here is the controller. Here it is. There's the back. Lovely couple of buttons here. I don't even know what this back button is. I think that's for setting. I think that might be the button that uses to set these little bad boys here. But yes, this is the controller itself. You can see that it is wired at the moment. I have taken the wire out. But yeah, standard looking thing. Now the first thing you will notice about this controller is this thing is super light. Like there is nothing in this controller. No rumble, nothing. Right? Very, very, very light controller. You compare that to this thing. This has got significantly much more weight to it. So this old Pro controller here. Right? Very, very like weighty. Feels really nice to hold, the right amount of weight. This thing, some people will like it, but this is also going to be the biggest turn off. This has nothing in there. There is no rumble, nothing. Literally, it is that light. It's the difference would be like if you had them weighed like this, you'd be like that one right off the bottom. Like I could easily lift this. This has got some weight to it. But yeah, apart from that, the actual controller itself, I think is quite good. So let's go over what we normally do. Analog sticks, quite stiff in comparison to these. These are a little bit, these aren't like super flexible, but they've got a bit of pushback when you move them, right? These ones on here, they're a bit stiffer. Now that might be because it's a bit newer, but they are a bit stiffer, which I quite like. They're a bit smaller as well. They don't have the same, so you can see that. They are slightly smaller sticks. It's probably quite hard to see in this video. Slightly smaller sticks, nice clicky noise. Clicking a lot nicer. Actually, to be fair, slightly quieter, but very, very, very clicky. If you like that kind of tactile sound, very, very clicky. So the sticks themselves, really nice sticks on this. Comparable to these, like this is a good for what this is. These are good. They feel, you know, you got to put some pressure on them. You're not gonna. They're not loose. They're a little bit on the tighter side. Very, very nice on that. The D-pad here, I wasn't, when I first got this controller, I did not rate this at all. I thought, oh, this isn't a very good D-pad, and to be honest, it doesn't feel amazing in the hands. But from what I've used it for and what we'll show off later, you'll see that it's actually not a bad D-pad, which is good. So yeah, the other thing you'll notice is all the buttons where my fingers is right now. The buttons are quite high raised. So B and A, very clicky again, X and Y. And even the middle buttons here, they're not flush to the controller at all. Like, you can't run your finger across them, you will just run into them, basically. And you can see that, hopefully. You can see just how raised they are, actually. Like, it's actually kind of crazy. But I will say, the buttons themselves, the X, Y, B, and A, feel lovely. They are a little bit smaller than your standard controller, and they probably go in a little bit more. They are more rounded, so you know how like the Pro controller is a bit more flat, there is a tiny curve. These feel much more rounded on here, so there is that. And then, like I said, your plus, minus, home and capture button, absolutely fine. They just stick out quite far. Like, you're not going to hit them by accident, and they're very easy to find without actually looking at this controller. I can run my thumb around and find them quite easily, and I believe they're in the exact same place. Yeah, they're in the same place as they would be on the Pro controller, unlike some of the other controllers I've done where they're the other way around sometimes. Triggers, the back bumpers, they have a nice curve to them. So if you can see that, but there's a nice curve on here. Which feels nice to click down. Are they as nice as this one? No, these have a bit more of a ledge there. It feels a bit nicer. They go down. They don't come up as much. These feel like they're higher up, and they go in a bit more. So that, you know, they're not bad. They're not bad. And then the bumpers, bit smaller bumpers, as you can see. But they're not bad. Overall, the top buttons are alright. Now, I will say, I have played a couple of, probably about 4 or 5 hours of gaming, various different games with this controller, and honestly, like, it was better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't rate the first PowerA controller I had because it was broken, obviously. This one has no rumble, no, like, no motors in it, nothing. No, I forgot what it's called. The motion stuff in it, nothing like that. It is a very, very basic controller. However, it is a good controller for its price. I got this for £20, and I think this is a really good second controller to have. I'm really starting to realise that third-party controllers in general, all the ones that I own, like, you know, we did the SN Pro Plus, fantastic controller, had a lot of bells and whistles. We did PDP Afterglow controller, which is probably one of my favourite ones. And I think the Afterglow controller is better than this one, because it has the lights and it just feels a bit better. But if you want a cheap alternative to a Pro controller, this is wired. I think you can get a wireless version of this as well. And obviously PowerA do a shit ton of different versions of this. I went for this one because I saw it and went, oh, it's got Samus from Metroid Dread on it. Like, I really like that. And I also bought one of these for Mark as well, for his birthday or Christmas or whenever it was last year. And he really likes this controller. And the cable that it comes with is a fairly long cable. Like, you can sit across a room with this. It is that old style USB. I've forgotten what you call this. Like, is the before everything turned to USB-C, basically. It's the sort of the old phone charger style one. But the cable itself is decently long. So, yeah, can't complain too much about it. But let's like, overall, so far, I would say, you know, explaining this controller to you guys and showing off, like, it's comfortable. That's the thing, like, this actually feels a little bit bulkier than the Pro controller. This feels a little bit longer. This feels a little bit more compact. This is much more like a classic sort of Xbox 360 controller, if you know exactly what I mean. It's a very particular feel that the 360 controller has. This feels like that. It's a bit more like that on it. Whereas this one, a bit more space, like the controls are a bit further away. One thing I will point out, back buttons, they are nice, but, and depending on how you hold it, you can use these ones or you can use these ones. They're a little bit small, and I have found myself accidentally clicking them a couple of times, but I think that might just be more me than the controller. But I hold controllers like this, so I click them in with the middle finger. Think about that for a second. I click them in with the middle fingers on my hands. So, but if I'm holding the controller like this, I can't really do it the way around, like, that's probably easier to show. And they have some spring to them. They generally, like, have some, like, you click them in and they're very responsive. They work really well. I can't remember what I've got mapped to them, so we'll let's boot up some games and go from there. Okay, so we're gonna test the game out using the recently released Mario Strikers. And so you guys can see, I am actually playing with this controller. And no issues with the analog stick. Can dodge around with the right stick. I wish I could show you guys a bit more of this, but no issues here. Buttons are feeling nice. If I hold it like that, you might be able to see. So this is a good test of the stick, actually. Like, me just turning around. And you can just see, like, I'm not having any issues with the analog stick. It feels really good to use. All the buttons are feeling nice to touch. See what I've got these back buttons there. So I've got the right back button here set to shoot. And I think I might have the other one set to pass. So let's find out. Oh. Yep, so I've got the back button. Let's do that again. Pass. Take the ball. I can't see. I'm going to try shooting with the back button. And you can see, so they work. They work really, really well. Not having any issues. They'll be good for like first-person shooters and stuff like that, most likely. And now you get to see me suck at trying to defend one of these. But yeah, no issues with the analog stick at all. Both analog sticks working lovely. Mash the button. Look at that. And I got it in anyway. But you can see, like, let me just run around a bit more so you guys can actually get a feel. So it just shows that this controller works. You know, the analog stick works. I'm not having any issues with it. Just no problems. You can click them in. It tells you where you are on the screen. It's cool. But yeah, all good. No issues here. So let's jump out of this and go and look at some 2D games and see if the D-pad is, you know, works for that. All right. So we've got my favorite Donkey Kong Country. Let's go to level 1 and let's test out the D-pad. Right, so you know, I'm using the D-pad here. Okay, cool. Let's go. Let's see how we work. We can turn around. Oops, I accidentally pushed the back button there. No issues. I'm going left to right. I'm not ducking at all here. Excuse me. Yeah, I can turn around. Oh, there we go. There was a duck. But generally speaking, this D-pad is working absolutely fine. Have some bananas. Now the back buttons again, we got change. This is currently set to A and B and jump. So if I wanted to, I can play the whole game using this back button. Just so you guys can see that. Like I am tapping the back button. But I want to switch back to Donkey. Push the other side and then back to pushing the jump button. Yeah, D-pad is. I'm having zero issues with this D-pad actually, and that goes to show like that this D-pad actually works really nicely. Let's just jump out of this and go into quickly into Mario Brothers. That's the other game I like to test when I do this. I don't know if I've got any. Oh, I do, because you know we should absolutely test it on the last level every time. So let's see. Can I get past these lasers? I can. Just want to test out moving back and forth really. You can see I'm not having any issues. Sliding. I can duck slide, which is obviously hugely important in this game. And then the back buttons, we've got both of them set to jump, so if I wanted to, I could get hit. So yeah, no issues with this. You can use the analog stick in these games, but why would you? All in all, very impressed with the D-pad. It could have been rubbish, but it's not. And it works absolutely lovely. So yeah, it seems like this is a fairly decent controller for what you're getting. So let's just hop back over a sec. All in all, this PowerA controller, I don't know what, I think they're just called, what they called, enhanced wired controller. That's basically all they are. There are different variants of this thing. Like I said, I bought this one because of the design on it, but there are a ton of different PowerA controllers. And honestly, for an alternative, if you can pick one of these up, this is wired, remember, so the wireless versions usually cost, if this is like £20, the wireless would be like £30 to £35. I don't know if the wireless one would have all the bells and whistles though, because this one is complete, like I said, there's no rumble here. But all in all, if you want a cheap alternative controller to your Pro controller and for a player 2, this is a solid option. Now, would I recommend this over the Afterglow one, which I have here? Our friend, the Afterglow box. I think this is still my favourite secondary controller to buy to the Pro controller. I really, really like this thing. But I do think you buying a enhanced wired PowerA controller, this is a good choice. Right, this is a really good choice for you to get. It's a controller. If you can get a controller for a console for like £20 to £30, that's reasonable. Comparing that the normal Pro controller is like 50 quid. So you want a cheap alternative. Yes, it doesn't have rumble. Yes, there are no motion controls or anything like that in this controller. It is a very basic control. What you do get, however, is the extra buttons on the back. So if you want programmable buttons and you want to play, let's say you play a lot of FPSs, and you want to have like maybe switch weapon or reload or something, like a bit easier access, so you can free up these buttons. As far as I'm aware, these can be tagged as the top buttons. It can be tagged as pretty much this, and the clickables. The instructions to that do come in with the box. But all in all, this is a solid controller. And so far, it's turning out that pretty much most of the Switch controllers that I have bought, whether it be the Afterglow, the enhanced wired controller, even the Rock Candy controller was impressive, and also the SN30 Plus. A lot of the Switch controllers that are third party are actually really good, and this just adds to that. Like, yes, if you can get a PDP controller, I think they're slightly better than PowerA. But your mileage may vary. You may have had better experiences with PowerA. They do have more expensive controllers. I will be looking to pick some of that stuff up in the future, and we can sort of review those as well. But as it stands, if you want a cheap alternative to your Pro controller, get yourself a PowerA controller. Like I said, this is a wired one, so it's even cheaper. But I have zero issues with this. It plays really well. The buttons are nice, the analog sticks are nice, the D-pad works really well for 2D games, and the triggers are nice. So all in all, good package for that price. So there you go. That is my thoughts on the enhanced wired controller by PowerA, the Metroid Dread Edition. If you like the video today, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. I do have other controllers that are by 8BitDo that I wish to review. Some very bonkers and very different controllers. On top of that, I will be looking at getting some other things in the future to look at and see if they're worth your time. But yeah, until next video, I will see you then.